Good afternoon. I hope you're still wide awake after probably having some lunch. But yeah, now it's the time to discuss some serious stuff, very serious stuff, as I would like to call it the backbone of economy. So it's the energy. The topic is energy. And I'm here today with four brilliant speakers, and I'd like to call on the stage Jānis, Alar, Riga, Valentas. Please join me. Oh, good, we're all here. Very well. So, yes, before we jump into learning more about what the panelists do, what their jobs are all about. So, brief intro, I'm Lās Melīzniece. I'm the executive director of the Latvian Wind Energy Association. And I have the honor to have a good talk with, I would like to say, friends, maybe people that I've known before, some I haven't, some I've just met, but all in all, I think energy sector is kind of a very well-known crowd. Everybody knows everybody. So let's get to it. Let's start by just introducing yourself. Tell us what is it that you do? What's your role in your organization? And and then we will go to the next question afterwards. But yeah, do tell me, Jānis, what do you do?
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Jānis. I work for Virši. Virši is a fuel retailer, largest local capital fuel sector player here in Latvia. And my role is to add a new strategy direction for the company to go into energy markets as all the businesses collide, fuel, energy. So that's my focus.
Right. You particularly work also on solar energy. You've put up solar panels on the gas stations, right? Yeah.
Yes, we do that. We do different initiatives to become sustainable.
Yeah.
And also I'm part of the Solar Energy Latvia NGO.
Very good. Right, Alar, what is it that you do?
Hey, I'm a chief financial officer for a company that we call Zero Terrain for English speakers. The real name is Energiasal, but doesn't mean a lot for most of you. And we're a company that develops underground pumped hydro. We have the first demo project in Estonia, Baltic. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, in approximately 1 year, we can reach the financial close for this project, and then we can start the construction. It will be 500 megawatts and with 12 hours of storage for phase one. And because Estonia doesn't have mountains, we are building it underground, which is the innovation part in it. Then the facility is also modular. That means that once we reach certain storage capacity, then we can quite easily and cheaply expand it. And we believe that the potential is to have 30 hours of storage for that particular facility. And we are also optimistic that there's more room for this technology across the globe. And we have an ambition that by 2040, we can build 10 more projects like this.
Okay, so that we all understand, give me the little bit of the details. So how exactly does that work? So you build something underground, but then you need water. So what exactly is the principle of your technology?
Yeah, it's called
in
gravity.
Simple words.
Yeah. So Lithuanians are familiar with it, with Kronis power pumped hydro plant. The technology that we will be using is the same. The principle is the same. But in order for it to work, you need elevation, and we can't get it from the mountain, so we create it artificially by going underground and using the Baltic Sea.
Okay. Simple, short and sweet.
Sometimes
right.
Simple things work.
Very good. Thank you. Valentas.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I come from Ignitis Group. which is a large group of energy companies working in Baltics, Poland and Finland. And in our activities, in our group, there are many companies from energy production to energy distribution and supply to customers in all those countries which I mentioned. And yeah, I'm happy to represent more than 4,000 employees working in our group. And my role in the company is to make sure that sustainability, a sustainable way of working, is embedded in our strategy, and that we tell about it openly to all of our stakeholders also.
Right. You work in the 3 Baltic states already, right? Are you building something in Latvia?
Sure.
Yeah?
Sure, we have a really big plans in Latvia, and I'm happy that we are going quite smoothly.
Okay, good to hear, because we need renewable energy. Moving on to Liga.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I represent the newest and smallest ministry of Latvia, the Ministry of Climate and Energy, and I'm State Secretary there. We are responsible for trying to find the best way how to manage these, at least energy sector, how to manage the so-called energy trilemma, where there is affordability, sustainability, and security of supply. This is quite daunting task in general, and it requires to be really open and discuss with both the representatives from the sector, from representatives of NGOs, as well as representatives of society and people who is using the energy. So at the moment we are having quite, I would say, very interesting task, as we are at the brink of energy transition also in Latvia. And I truly believe that specifically electricity and energy sector in general can be the basis on which we can build stronger economy. So as a both sectoral and state patriot, I'm very happy to be here and see that people are interested in the topic and that we can have a discussion. So thank you.
What a diverse crowd we've got here, business and policymakers. That's what you always want to get in the same room, both parties, both sides. But Liga, since you mentioned sustainability, indeed, this event is all about sustainability and how to be sustainable. So when we're thinking about energy, what does sustainability mean to you? What does sustainable energy stand for you personally? And I'm asking to Liga.
So I on personal level, I believe that sustainability is not just green energy. It's not just consideration about our environment. It is being considerate in general. You have to be considerate of the interconnections that energy has with other sectors. You have to be cognizant of the context, both temporal and sectoral. And in the end of the day, you have to be here for the long run. I do not have clairvoyance skills, so I can't really predict the future, but I do believe that sustainable future is the only one we can have, because otherwise, as my economics professor said, in long run we're all dead, but by being sustainable we can keep that long run a bit further away.
Okay, I feel the energy from Jans. He's like, I want to say something. Go ahead.
Oh, really? No, well, for me, energy sector and sustainability in energy sector, I think that in the previous decade and beginning of this one, then it was looking at the resources. So thinking about the renewable energy sources and what is the CO2 footprint. But now we see that the technologies are marching on, and the renewable technologies are competitive without subsidies or with some limited subsidies. So now the remainder of this decade, I think it's about the sustainable overall system. So how we store energy, how we provide flexibility when it's overproduction from the renewables or lack of them. So it's more how to make the system overall sustainable.
Changing the mentality, how we plan things.
Yes, and we will see these massive investments, and we need to accommodate them, and without shifting our mindset as end customers, and also putting enough investments into energy storage, then it will not be sustainable as well.
Okay, Allard, what does energy sustainability or sustainable energy means for you?
Yeah. In an energy company that is sort of like trying to still set its foot into a market that doesn't have these assets, then we're really looking into not only sustainability. We need to look at what they call the full energy dilemma. So otherwise, we just can't build these type of things, new things, put them on the market by just focusing on one aspect. Of course, you could argue that you could interpret the sustainability from different aspects, from business viability perspective, economic perspective as well. So for me, it's really about understanding where the problem is, where are we heading, and then doing the right things that will be necessary for them, and that kind of for me, it's if you do in principle the right thing, where you have like physics and facts behind it, then it already sounds like sustainable for me. But I kind of, as a finance person, I probably interpret sustainability a bit differently.
Well, thanks for that. Your views. Valentis, what about you?
Yeah, so everything what colleagues told about, it's important for me too. But adding to this, I don't know, infrastructure angle, I would like to add this customer angle, consumer angle, and that it's really important to make sure that as electricity energy consumers, we also shift and we also transition from those people who do not care about energy, we just pay the bills, etc. Because the transition in energy sector, all those new technologies, it also urges and it opens possibilities to consumers to be flexible, to use energy when we need it and how we need it. So I always think about it also as a two-way street where companies, energy specialists, we have to think about how to make this sector more environmental friendly, how to make sure that we, supply the clean energy, but also customers will need to change. And we kind of, I'm not saying that we all need to become, energy experts, but we will have to be aware about energy, and that's a good thing, and that's a really interesting thing, and we can talk a lot about it.
Are we on the way to raising this awareness on the level where we know, where we are aware of what is happening, like are we basically moving in the right direction as a society of the Baltic states?
I think we are starting it.
We are starting.
Of course, for the consumers also, we have to have, the possibility to do. We have to have smart meters to make sure that we see, all the data at the right time, how we use, what appliances at their home use energy, the most, the biggest part, so that we could change their, how we behave, their behaviors. But we are starting, and I think it's in a good way.
Okay, that's good news. Do you want to know the definition of the United Nations? What they call, what they say about energy when it's sustainable? They say energy is sustainable if it meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. I think that's a very good definition. Okay, well, thanks for this, for the good, beautiful answers. I would like to now steer our discussion towards the future. We all know that there are plenty of challenges in all three Baltic states, but can we draw the picture, or can we dream a little bit and brainstorm what would be the perfect energy system by, say, 2040? I realize the 2030 is very close. But that's why let's focus more on 2040. It gives us more time for doing more things than we can until 2030. And now I'm turning to Liga, since you're a policymaker, and in general you have a very difficult job to aligning the needs, the interests of everybody, and but like having been in the sector for quite a while now, can you guide us through the ideal energy system. How do you see it developing? What are we looking at in 2040?
Right, thank you so much. I don't think I have had any question, I haven't been asked a question more often than what is our energy strategy, and everybody understands something different with that. But to see where we are going, I would like to start where we are at the moment, just to give context. So in Latvia, we consume 55 terawatt hours of energy every year, approximately. Half of it is primary energy or fuels. For example, half of it is used in transportation as diesel. Other half is used for industrial use and for agriculture, which relates to all kinds of it can be biomass, it can be something else as well. The other half is secondary energy, and there is two main energy ways or types. It is heating and it is electricity. The difference between heating and electricity is approximately 6-7 terawatt hours of electricity a year currently, and the rest 22-24 of this secondary energy is heat. Just to give the context where we stand. As a country, we are currently not very energy efficient. So one very serious trend I see both for 2030 as well as 2040 is increase in energy efficiency, which means that our ceteris paribus, all else the same, our overall energy consumption is going to decrease. Particularly, I'm hopeful towards heating sector, as there we have quite a lot of inefficiencies, and also obviously fuels. Then if we look closer on electricity, which is a topic more related to our today's discussion, electricity is the only energy type I expect that the consumption will increase, because the Baltic region is particularly well suited for electricity production, and we can produce electricity cheaper than in most places in Europe. So for decarbonization and for reaching our climate targets, electrification or using electricity more is pivotal. So some of the energy we will no longer be using in the sector of fuels, particularly fossil fuels, will be switched to electricity, and particularly it will be transportation sector, I think with the strongest point, and perhaps to extent also in heating sector. For 2030, I think the change will not be as noticeable, but for 2040, we will see I would imagine that we will see quite significant percentage increase in electricity's role in our total consumption package, as well as in absolute numbers as well. So first trend I would like to stress that I do trust that will happen is electrification and increase the role of electricity among energy portfolio. Pretty sure this is true for Latvia as well for Estonia. In Lithuania, I think also hydrogen will play quite significant role, particularly in fertilization sector and in fuel sector, as there is quite strong goals for Lithuania, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they will be achieved as well. So that's the basis. Then if we look at 2040, I think I have been very oftentimes asked, what is the perfect energy mix for Latvia or for Baltics? And I'm always very hesitant to answer, particularly in professional setting. If I was asked this question 3 years ago, I'm pretty sure I would answer very, very poorly based on today's realities. We have seen tremendous technological shift in last 5 years, much more than we saw in last 50 years previously. We've seen a technical feasibility, economic feasibility for decentralized energy production that we have never seen before. If I do believe that the technical developments keep the same pace and nothing particularly new appears, then I would imagine that Baltic states will become exporter nation again. We were once, before Ignalina was closed, Baltic states were net exporter, and currently we are net importer. I believe that fossil fueled energy will be to large extent substituted by renewables. Particularly if we look at Estonia, I don't think that effectively oil shale, which is basically coal, will have life until 2040. I imagine Estonia can object, but at least I would be surprised if that would still be a very significant part of Estonian energy mix, and I believe that state goals also set as not sort of as a phase out. And Lithuania, I think it's the same. There is a strong role for RDF, sort of for waste as a fuel. There is very strong developments for wind farms, and obviously all three countries have quite strong plans for solar. I believe that some of those might not come to fruition, but I do believe that we will see quite many hybrid type of plans, because that makes sense from energy perspective. And that's probably one thing I really love about energy sector. You can make all kinds of rules, but physics still follows the physics rules. And in the end, what makes sense technically is the one thing that prevails. So altogether, I know this was pretty long intro, so I'm sorry about that. But I believe that firstly, we will be much more energy efficient, both Latvia and Baltics in general. I believe electricity will play a much higher role than it does in total energy mix. And the renewable share will increase with some sort of balance between wind and solar. And the fossils will play more role towards reserve markets and, of course, storage. Storage and convergence of different types of energy, particularly electricity and heat, because there's lots of synergies. I hope I answered.
That's very impressive, I would say. Thank you. Well, from what you highlighted, so we will be very efficient, we'll go 100% renewable, and storage will play a big role, and we will not be burning fossils for our own consumption, right? More or less.
And we will produce more biomethane.
Okay, very well. Yes, again, I'm feeling the energy that Janis wants to reflect on that. So let's.
Well, Asma, I think Liga already covered almost everything. But if I may add some emphasis, then yes, for more than 10 years we've been electricity-wise a deficit area here in the Baltics after closure of Ignalina nuclear power plant, and we have been also a very low consumers of electricity. So if you compare the Baltics altogether, let's say roughly consume around 25 terawatt hours, then any of the so Sweden or Finland or Poland, they are a bit below or significantly above 100 terawatt hours each of those countries. So and now and we have many strengths. So for instance, energy-wise strengths, that the area in our countries is so unpopulated that there is space for onshore wind, for solar parks, and also in the sea. We have this shallow seabed. The water is not that salty, so it's not that aggressive environment. So we have this opportunity right now that very quickly with the technologies we become net exporter of energy, and I think it will be quite quickly. So second part of this decade, and then the biggest challenge is how do we find the right solutions to export the energy, because we will definitely have to find ways how to feed the energy to rest of Europe or maybe a bit further. And now the biggest challenge is how to figure out if we go with the green ammonia or green methanol, or I believe also a green methane is a solution to utilize the existing natural gas infrastructure. So that's the biggest unknown for me. Mm-hmm. Is I know that we will be net exporters, but what exactly we will export is still a mystery.
Well, Valentis, having heard what Liga said, can you agree what was said? Is that coming true? Have we got what it takes to achieve 100% renewables and exporting and energy efficiency to the extent where we're self-sufficient and renewable?
Yeah, so this discussion would be much more interesting if we had some arguments against, but we don't. I guess we read the same book. Yeah, so everything that Liga said and what Yanis said, it's for sure, it's true, and it's the same. We are discussing in Lithuania and looking at our strategy, for example, at our priorities. We are thinking about, first of all, of course, renewable focus, renewable energy, offshore, onshore, hybrid power plants for sure, to use it as efficiently as possible, landfills and etc. Land plots, sorry. Then, of course, we're talking about flexibility. So how we'll make sure that this renewable energy could fit into our grids and then into our what we have in the infrastructure. So we are thinking already in Lithuania, already implemented this project of batteries, and we are expanding it. It was mentioned this hydro pumped storage power plant in Lithuania, Klonis power plant. We are expanding this power plant also to be more flexible to meet the needs of the system. And for sure, we are thinking, as Yanis just mentioned, a lot of fuels. We're thinking and we are planning pilot projects. So how we are making this surplus of energy, of electricity, which we for sure will have in the future. We will be net exporters of electricity. How we are going to export it in hydrogen or any other fuel. So this is the main topics. Then, of course, we should think about the integration of the system in general, so that, as I mentioned, the grid could be sufficient for what we plan and for what we have to do. And of course, we also have to think about sustainability in general. So how to make sure that this change would be as environmentally friendly as possible without adding more greenhouse gas emissions and making sure that we receive all those net zero or climate neutrality targets which we are talking about today. So all of what was said, I cannot disagree with that. Of course, it's true.
Very well. Looking at Estonia, Mr. Estonia, can you reflect on what was said that Estonia will no longer use oil shale, would go 100% renewable? Is that a reality? Do you see it that way? And since you come from the pumped hydro area, like how big a role do you think that will play in all of this?
Just a quick comment on oil shale. I mean, it's inevitable; it needs to be closed down, and also already because most of these plants are old, so they're no longer basically working properly, and so there's no point of investing into repairing those anymore, and no bank would lend you money for that as well. So yeah, you will just close them down. But I would actually take two other things. First of all, firstly, maybe a quick insight. So what we have done in our company is that we've tried to sort of internally, really simply model how the power market would look like in 2030, 2040. And taking into account the same energy trilemma aspect that I mentioned previously. And what we have discovered on our own, and we've found evidence from other research as well, is that with existing technology, from a cost perspective, today you can only go 90% renewable. And here I mean on hourly basis or 15-minute basis, not on an annual basis. The last 10%, this is with the technologies you have today, you can't do that affordably. Either someone needs to pay for that, or you just continue using something existing that you have today, like gas speakers or something, where you could potentially go to biogas or something. But that last 10% is the difficult part. This 90% wind, solar, storage, really easily doable with existing technologies. Just go do it. That was a quick insight from what we have sort of figured in our company. Another aspect is if you take a step back and look at whether the world is moving from a holistic perspective, then we used to have an energy system which was really simple, and to visualize it in Estonia, In the northeastern side, you had the power plant, then you had network that delivered electricity to consumers, and then as the demand changed, then the power plant was ramped up or down. So it was a really easy system. Someone generated and someone consumed. But now the transition to renewables is not only like a change in the generation sources. The whole system is moving to a really complex system where you're gonna need generators, you're gonna need flexibility providers, you need flexible consumers. You're gonna need on top of like real physical assets, you're gonna need software that will combine these things. We're talking about algorithms that will be doing the trading. We're talking about AI that will help consumers automatically actually do the demand response. So you don't need to check the energy prices yourself. I think it's not comfortable and nobody really wants to do it. So if you can have a system that will do it for you, then that should be the way. So this is what I think, like conceptually, what this transition actually means. That like there's an example in finance, the same thing happened. It used to be a simple system, checks and money and deposit accounts, and now it's all these really complex instruments and things, and then the same thing is happening with the energy system.
That sounds perfect. Everything automated, smart energy grid, right? Sounds good. Okay, that is, I think you highlighted very good points. It was, we're clear where we're going or where we want to go when it comes to energy system. But right now, there are quite a lot of challenges and bottlenecks. I want to talk about that. And this is an open question to you. Whoever wants to kind of, well, I'm looking at more businesses. What do you, like, what is it that you find is extremely difficult now in order to move to the 2040 of renewable 2040 year?
I can maybe then be the first this time. So I can actually continue from the thing that I said previously, that we used to have a power system where it was really easy. We had a generator and then a consumer. And then now that the world is changing, then we look at the new things we try to do through those load lenses. So storage, someone says that it is a generator, it's a consumer, but it actually is a completely new set of assets, and you can't measure it with this sort of rules that you had in the old system. So the rules need to change. A simple example is that in Estonia, if you were to build a storage facility today, then grid fees you would pay both on generation and consumption. Really simple example of how the old regulation is not matching the sort of new type of assets that will be coming.
Liga. That's true. Also in Latvia.
I think it's true in most of Europe. In general, energy sector used to be one of the most stable sectors in economy you could find. There was basically no technological leap, I think, for almost 100 years. You had your centric system, exactly as Aller explained, and now policymakers, both in Europe, both in Baltics, they are a bit perplexed, I think, because you really don't know what of these things that you see is a fad and what is there to stay. Because what hasn't changed is that when you make investments in energy, they are here for 25 to 75 years.
And they're very big investments.
And making very hasty decisions on topics that have investment cycle of 25 to 75 years is a very brave choice. So policymakers are lagging a bit behind. When in general we speak about bottlenecks, at least how we from policymakers' point of view look at it, there is 4 main stages for every new technology. First, there is technical feasibility, whether you have technology that can achieve it and that scales up. And for a very long time, green energy production for electricity financially wasn't able to compete with fossil fuel type of generation. That has changed. Both technologies are cheaper, and also fossils are more expensive. So we have managed that part. It is not the same for green gas at the moment. Biomethane is approximately 2 times expensive as a fossil methane. And similar also to e-fuels, also those are considerably more expensive than the alternatives for fossils. But for electricity, we have managed this particular point. The next one is availability. You need to have land, and you need to have, in case of electricity, grid. This is something where many countries struggle. Baltics are not an exception there. But I think that at least with grid availability, we are having some sort of breakthrough currently. At least in Latvia, I've been discussing also with colleagues in Lithuania and Estonia, and there is some sort of idea how to approach it. We are more in implementation, how to make it efficient, not so much what to do. And then the next one is supply chains. And I believe that next bottleneck will be there. First of all, whether you can get financing, because financing has become quite expensive. But then whether you can get parts, whether you can get people. Do you have people who will work with these technologies? Can you have occasional training for them? So in energy sector in all Baltic countries, we already have pretty strained labor markets. Everybody is fighting for the same amazing people, even between the countries. So I think those are the 3 main bottlenecks. And then next technology will come and you have the cycle again.
But is the regulation in place? Are we good to go to achieve what was said? Is because Ala, for example, mentioned, we have to, in order to get the storage up, you need to pay a deposit for grid fee, or but which it shouldn't be the case.
So I will say something not very controversial, but last time I checked, regulation ain't gonna produce electricity. But I do understand what you mean. Regulation itself is only rules, and it hopefully does not hinder anybody too much. If we look at flexibility, during my thesis writing, I have electricity, I have heat pumps for heat at my home, and I was sort of managing exactly what you mentioned. I made my own tiny software, which were managing my heat pumps to adjust for the Nord Pool prices. So nobody was standing in my way. So whether you can use new technology, there is no regulation forbidding it with some aspects. For example, CCS, carbon capture and storage, is a bit different topic from electricity. You can do all kinds of things. Whether it is the best regulation for every technology, I would say we're not there yet. Mm-hmm. But as I mentioned, I also understand why we are being a bit prudent on this topic, because investments are for a very long time.
Yeah. Okay. Would you like to comment on the challenges, bottlenecks?
Well, like Liga went with 3 things, then I'll go with 3 things as well. And yes, I think Ala started with the end customers that will have to change if we want to have the transformation faster. And so such things as for instance, if you own an electric car, then you might have to switch it to the charger every day so that the energy company can play around and charge something into the battery or discharge based on what's going on with the renewable landscape in that over the night, for instance. And so the same goes for the heating. Maybe the temperature fluctuates a bit. So it's I think it's a question we can move very fast if the consumers are ready to play along, or then while the energy companies figure out a very smooth way to operate so that there's no need to change the daily habits of end customers, then of course it might take a bit longer. The same goes for cars, and especially for trucks, where we are used to see the diesel. Then do we go for the compressed gas, liquefied gas, electric or hydrogen trucks? It will not be the fuel seller that will buy those trucks, but it will be the ones that drive them, and we can only give incentives and some price signals what it might be, together with the ministry who sets the whole overall legislation framework. Second thing, after the consumers, it's what worries me is about the raw materials, and basically, if we used to think all the time, how will we produce energy, then I think that now the main challenge is where to get the materials to produce those assets that will convert the energy and so that we get electricity. And here I'm looking at the supply for EV batteries, for PV panels. All that is it's a question about geopolitics, and I think that European scientists should come up with some sort of breakthrough to use new minerals, new sources for the batteries, for instance.
Because we no longer want to work with China.
Well, I'm just saying that there is a geopolitical topic there, and also for offshore wind, we just lately have seen a tremendous drop in share prices for many offshore wind turbine suppliers. Obviously, they wanted to outperform each other, aggressive bidding, and now we might be thrown back a couple of years because they simply cannot deliver what they promised to the large offshore wind parks. So this supply for the turbines and PVs and batteries, that's a big topic. And mentioned before, so the legislation, we need to be flexible. We need to communicate between the industry and the ministry. It's great that now we have in Latvia a separate climate and energy ministry following the Lithuanian path. Estonians probably will have it at some point as well.
They have followed our path.
Yeah, they have
all right. So I
already,
haven't traveled to Estonia this year. So
Something you would like to add, Valentis, on the challenges and bottlenecks?
No, I'm just thinking about, that this energy is, in general, it's a little bit complex.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit complex. And I was thinking about all those challenges which we are facing, and that all those infrastructure, supply chains, etc., etc., etc. We can talk a lot about that. People, a really important aspect also, I agree. And the thing is, I guess, that we have a lot of challenges. We scientists have a lot to do to make sure that we have safe infrastructure, etc. But we need it fast, and that's the main challenge from sustainability perspective, from my perspective, because I read just this week that scientists from Exeter University in UK, they calculated that 2023, this year, is the year where we globally, the greenhouse gas emissions was on the highest level. So we are talking a lot about reducing emissions, about climate change, etc. But the situation is getting worse, even worse every year. So and that's a lot of pressure for everyone working in energy sector and all other sectors. So I'm just hoping that everyone will have enough of strength to make sure that they are doing their best, that we attract enough of talent to energy sector and technology in general, because we see that it's also a challenge, but people are willing to choose social sciences or something like that. So yeah,
Which are also important.
sure, everything is important, but we see that we may face a problem here, facing all those challenges and empowering this change which we are talking today.
I did want to kind of go in a little bit more detail about the price, but since we're slowly running out of time, I wanted to ask you, it's a yes or no question, implementing those flexible and hybrid and renewable energy systems, is that going to lower the price for the end consumer? Yes or no question. Let's start with you.
Yes, but I think that so we will have a massive volatility, and then this all the storage solutions will simply allow to even out, so that we don't have the extremes.
Okay. Yes or no?
I don't want to say either, but I want to continue on one aspect. Just quickly, I see the clock. So an interesting thing, when we switch to renewables, then wind and solar energy, when it is produced, it is free. The market regulation that we have today is that you can only price your marginal cost. That means that on the stock exchange power market, that the energy will be sold at zero price.
Yes.
Now, essentially what it means is that in the future, most of your energy will be produced at zero fuel cost, basically. But but you can't have wind and solar parks installed for free. You still need money to put them up. So essentially, the cost of power in the future for consumers will be dependent on the cost of that initial investment. And that one is really dependent on what is the regulatory framework, who takes what risks. And speaking as a chief financial officer for a major investment, it has quite the impact for consumers. If the developer needs to take all the market risk, or there's some sharing with the government.
Thank you. Reflection to you, yes or no, given that Allard was referring to you as a policymaker? There's also
Yes,
yes.
electricity price will converge to levelized cost of energy, exactly what you mentioned. How much does 1 megawatt per hour? How much does 1 megawatt cost in the whole lifetime of the asset? Exactly so. And yes, if we will either force or allow expensive assets to generate electricity, then the electricity will be expensive. If we manage to create framework where cost-efficient energy producers prevail, then we will have lower prices. And we need to remember what already is mentioned about flexibility. Flexibility costs, so the total cost of intermittent or this solar and wind energy it's not just what you have for the production unit, it's also what it will cost to store it and to level it out. So overall, we will see less volatile prices, and they will be less than they were in 2022. Whether they will be less than in 2020 or 2019, I wouldn't be so sure. Levelized cost of energy is 70 to 19 euros for the technology currently being developed, and that's without the storage costs. Historical average is 50 to 60 euros per megawatt hour in our region, where we got incorrectly priced fossils from Russia.
And Valentis, you have the last word here.
Is the last word. So the last word would be, I agree with yes, but. So
Yes,
in
but.
the long-term perspective, I am sure that we will not care so much about the electricity prices in the long-term perspective for some years to come, until we implement everything we were talking about today. We will have some fluctuations, etc. But everyone has to do their part. Energy structure, energy companies, scientists, etc. But also, and customers, consumers, we will also have to do their part to make sure that we use energy as efficiently as it is possible.
Thank you. I think on this note, we will finish. Everybody has to do their part. And I would like to thank my panelists for the good talk again. So yeah, thanks.